I'm delighted to be here. I'm so excited. I want to talk to you about a simple idea that I have and I want to share. And that is that succeeding at failing could help us be more successful at succeeding. So let me tell you my story. It was a long journey I took, and let me tell you a little bit about it. This is a over 100-year-old yew tree. The bark of that tree makes a molecule that binds exquisitely to the cellular machinery of dividing human cancer cells, and thus is a chemotherapy drug. The drug is called Taxol. There was a problem. You had to cut down more than 300-year-old trees to get enough Taxol to treat one patient. So how do we make the drug? Well, just coming right out of graduate school, my colleague and I, we had an idea. We said, oh, we can do this. Here's how we did it. We basically took the yew tree and extracted some stem cells from that tree. We were able to grow the stem cells by giving the cells everything that they needed to grow very rapidly. We looked through millions of them to figure out which ones could grow well and be very productive in terms of making Taxol. And then we were able to make large quantities of cells and freeze them in liquid nitrogen. And then, when we had to start a production run and make Taxol, we just simply thawed the vials and grew up the cells. And we grew them in these fermenters, a controlled environment, and the cells, they kind of look like applesauce. The trick was, once we got to our large production fermenter, we tricked those cells into believing that they ought to now produce Taxol at very high rates, over 1 million times higher than they would in the tree. And therefore, we were able to make Taxol. This is the picture of the actual facility where Taxol has been made now for about the last decade or so. The panel on the left shows you the top of a fermenter. It's about 3 stories tall. The panel on the right shows you a plant, a production facility in Ahrensburg, Germany, just north of Hamburg, where the plant is located, the production facility is located. And for about the last decade or so, Bristol Myers Squibb, the large pharmaceutical company, has been able to source its Taxol without having to cut down a single tree. Now, thinking back on that experience, I realized that it was really a transition, from idea all the way through deployment to the market. And there were a lot of steps along the way. Proof of concept, improvements, refinements, and very importantly, viability, commercial viability. Can this idea really stand on its own 2 legs? And will people invest in it to take it all the way through the commercial transition and then finally to the market? And when I think back about it, while this is true certainly of Taxol and biotechnology, I think this is true of a lot of different ideas. I've also coined a term for this journey going from an idea to commercial viability. I call it de-risking, because there are so many things that could go wrong. There are so many risks, and one has to be very systematic about addressing these risks up front in order to prove out the commercial viability. Now, this de-risking was hard. It took probably the better part of 8 years, over $15 million, and a lot of burdens, a lot of management burdens. We had to hire people. We had 50 people in our little company at one point. And we had to build the infrastructure to do all of this de-risking before we could even think of taking the product to the market. And as I said, a lot of burdens, and it's not just the years, it's the mileage and the wear and tear as well. Well, so that was then. I did all this before I came to Michigan 4 years ago, and I started thinking, well, you know, everybody wants innovation. Everybody is interested in turbocharging innovation, entrepreneurship, new technologies coming to market, making a difference, jobs, economic development. This is what we all want. But our track record, you know, it isn't that great. I think we can do better. How can we do better? I think we can be creative about failing faster, addressing those critical risks that ultimately lead to big failures, but failing fast and failing cheap, doing this de-risking in a smart way. So I'd like to show you a couple of examples. This is a picture of a great facility just down the street from here, built by the state of Michigan and various foundations. It's an organization called MBI. Those are my colleagues, Karen and Elena. And this is actually a miniaturized version of a production facility, a biotechnology production plant. We call it a pilot plant, where technologies can be tried out and see if they work. That's Susanna and Jim, my colleagues. We have about 30 people in this organization from all the different technological and business disciplines to take technologies and put them through the paces, de-risk them, and demonstrate whether or not they can be viable. Now, we work with companies large and small and say, we'll help you de-risk the technology. We also work with innovators from universities and from Michigan State University. And here's an example of a prototype that we built for a reaction that can take agricultural residues, the parts we don't eat, deconstruct them into sugars, and then convert those sugars into a variety of different fuels, chemicals, plastics, materials, all of which would be a lot more sustainable in the long run than sourcing them from petroleum. The inventor of this idea is Dr. Bruce Dale. He's a professor here at Michigan State University, and we're working together to de-risk his idea. And I know I've talked a lot about technology, but I think the concept of de-risking goes well beyond technology. I was walking around Seattle, Garland's old place. I don't know whether you know this place, Garland, but I was just walking around and I saw this storefront, and it had, you know, a place where young fashion designers could try out their ideas without actually having to rent, you know, go into the whole retail business. And I thought, wow, that's a really cool way to do de-risking. I can see a young fashion designer saying, wow, you know, if I could try some ideas, and if they don't take, well, that's fine, I'll try something else. But if there's traction, maybe I could go forward with it and get investment. That's not all. Friends tell me that there are places in Detroit, Toledo, Grand Rapids, where you can have a restaurant concept and try it out. A kitchen where different chefs can come in, try out their concepts in different rooms. This way, it's a way of de-risking a restaurant concept. And you know, if you get traction again, it's a lot better for investors, it's a lot easier to go forward. So now I'd like to ask you all a question. How many of you have an idea that you think could make a difference? Just raise your hands, please. All right. Well, it is TEDx after all. How many of you think that it's, you know, are a little concerned about putting everything behind that idea? The time, the money, the personal commitment? Yeah, I thought so. Well, I think there's a way. Take your idea. Envision a path to success. Roadmap it. Work with all your trusted friends, advisors, and try to identify the risks. And then don't avoid the prospect of failure. Don't be afraid of the prospect of failure. Embrace the prospect of failure, but fail cheap, fail fast, and find a creative way to do that. And when you hit a brick wall, try to find a way around it. Thoreau said, follow your genius closely enough and it will not fail to show you a fresh prospect every hour. Try a way around it. Too many brick walls? Fine. Let go of that idea. Get another one. Start over again. And remember, have some confidence, because succeeding in failing this way can ultimately help us succeed in succeeding. Thank you.